Hey everyone, this is Mrs. Clark, and we're going to talk about place value and how different digits compare to one another. For example, you might see a number like this, 1,111, and the question might ask you, how does this one compare to that one? This one is worth how many times more than that one? Well, to do that, all you have to do is know your place value. So this is in the ones column. This is in the tens column. This one is in the hundreds column. Whew. And this one is in the thousands. So clearly each one is not worth the same amount, right? This one is just worth that. This one is worth so much more. This one is worth even more. And if you put a 1 over here in the thousands, we're talking, I mean, this is huge. That's 1,000 blocks right there. But the question wants you to specifically articulate or explain the difference between the places. Okay? So I would say this one is worth 100 times more than this one. Because this one's worth 100, just like that, and this one's just worth 1. I mean, look at that. This times 100 gets you this. This one is only worth 1, and this one is worth 100. Okay? I could also say that this one is worth 10 times as much as this one. Because look, it's worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this is only worth 1. So the rule is, as you go to the left, so here's your ones column, once you go up to your tens column, each place is worth 10 times more. As you go up from the tens to the hundreds, it's worth 10 times more. And as you go up from the hundreds to the thousands, it's worth 10 times more. Because, let me show you. So to take your ones, if you took 10 of these, take this one and times it by 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you take this one, measly little one in the ones place, super sad, if you multiply it by 10, what do you get? You get a 10. Now you're in the tens place. Take this 10. What happens if you multiply this 10 by 10? Meaning, what happens if you gather up 10 of these? Can you picture it? Can you picture having 10 tens? What does it make? If you take 10 tens, so you took one green rod and you multiplied it by 10. If you take 10 tens, what do you get? You get 100. So we multiply by 10 and now you get 100. Now if you take 10 hundreds, so take this 100, multiply it by 10. Take 10 of these, guess what you're going to get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I need one more that I don't have with me because I brought it to school. Oh my goodness, imagine that I had 10 of these though. So I had one more. Just imagine I had one more, okay? 10 of these would create 1,000. Whoa! All right. Guys, I wish I had 10 of these. Could you imagine me making a 10,000s place? If I wanted to make the 10,000s, what would I have to do? I would have to multiply this by, you guessed it, 10. So, if I had 10 of these, I would stack the 10 of them together, and that's actually what a 10,000 cube would look like. They don't exist. But if I had 10 of these, I could glue them together and make one. So, as you go up in place, it's always worth 10 times more. Okay, so if someone asks you what's the relationship between this one and this one, you would say this one is worth 10 times more than that one. Okay, now what happens if they ask you this one and this one? You went up times 10 and times 10 again. Each time you go, it's 10. And each time you go, you're going to add a 0. So going up 1 would get you 10, and going up 2 would get you 100. You just add in another 0. So this one is worth 100 times more than that one. Because I went up 1 time is 10, 2 times is 100. 2 times, 2 zeros. What if we're asked the relationship between this one and this one? You're going up how many places, how many times? Times 10, 1, 2, 3 times. So 1 time would get you times 10, 2 times would get you times 100, 3 times would get you times 1,000, because there's 3 times you went up. 1, 2, 3 zeros. This is worth 1,000 times more than that. Okay, so now we're going to do a couple examples, and depending on your cohort, 4th graders, you might be doing just watching this, and then tomorrow we'll actually do it together, or maybe we already did it and now you're at home and you're watching this so that you can do one of these. Okay, either way, we're going to do this one step at a time. Okay, please put your name on your paper, and here's the question. The 8 in the number 3,285 is worth how many times more than the 8 in 7,168? Great. So you have 2 numbers and 2 digit 8s. And we're just asking about the relationship between one 8 and the other 8. But I want you to follow some steps to kind of help you get there. Step 1, please underline the 8 in both numbers. So this 8 is right there. That's our first number, and the digit 8 is there. And this 8 is right here. Simple. Just underline the 8s, please. Now we're going to take this number and we're going to put it into the place value chart, always starting at the ones. 5 in the ones place, 8 in the tens place, 2 in the hundreds place, 3 in the thousands place, and we didn't use any of those. Now please answer this question. The 8 in 3,285 is in the place. Super easy, because I can look at that 8, I see a little 10 down there, and I can answer it. It's in the tens place. Just like that. And now, how much is that 8 worth? Well, there's 1 digit after it, so you can put the 8 and then just put 1 0 for that 1 digit. You can also think of it as having 8 tens, which would be 80. 8 dimes would be 80 cents. Great. Now do the same thing over here, please. Put this into the place value chart. 8, 6, 1, and 7. 7,168. Again, we're looking at the 8. All right. This should say 8 on here. I'll make sure I fix that before I send it home with you. The 8 in 7,168 is in the place. We'll look at it. It's in the ones. And it's worth what? If you have 8 ones, is that anything special? Not really. It's like having 8 pennies. It's just worth 8. There we go. So one of them's worth 80 and the other one's worth 8. There is one more step that we're going to use here, and we're going to look at these 2 8s and look at them on here in the place value chart, kind of like how we did here. So we've determined that that first 8 in 3,285 was in the tens place and worth 80, whereas the second 8 in 7,168 was only in the ones place and only worth 1. So we already see a relationship here, 80 versus 8. And the question is, this is how many times more than that? This 8 is worth how many times more than that 8? Okay. To do that, we're going to use the place value chart, because we know that as you go up each place, it's worth 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. So all you have to do is place those 2 8s. One of them was in one place and one was in the other, and count how many jumps did you do. So I like to just use a pencil or a marker or something and just mark it on here. The first 8 was in the tens place. So we have one here. I'm just writing an 8. This is the first 8 of 3,285. And then the second 8 was here in the ones place. This was the 8 of 7,168. So the question is just, how many more times is this one than that one? So just see how many times you jumped up. In this case, we only had to jump up one time. And we know that when you jump from one place value to the next, it's times 10. And we only went one time, so it's 10. The 8 in the number 3,285 is worth 10 times more than the 8 in 7,168 because, and now I want you to explain it. Here's how I would explain it. I would just talk about this tens place and say that the tens place is worth 10 times more than the ones place. So if you have 8 tens, that's 10 times more than 8 ones because a 10 is 10 times more than a 1. So I'm going to write something like the 8 in the number 3,285 is worth 10 times more than the 8 in 7,168 because the 8 in 3,285 is in the tens place, and the tens place is worth 10 times more than the ones place. So I'm just trying to talk about the relationship between these two places. Give me an 8 in this place is worth 10 times more than an 8 in that place. We're going to do one more. The 6 in the number 3,645 is worth how many times more than the 6 in 7,546? So again, just underline the digit 6 in both of these. Here's one, here's the other. Now you're going to plot each one in the place value chart. 3,645 in the place value chart. So put the 5 first, then the 4, then the 6, then the 3. We've got a 3 in the 1,000, 6 in the 100, 4 in the tens, 5 in the ones. The 6 is in the hundreds place, and it's worth, well, it's worth 600. There we go. And now plot this one. 6, 4, 5, and 7. The 6 here, we can see it very clearly, it's in the ones place. And so it is just worth 6. Now all we have to do is take a look at that down here. We are jumping from the ones place, because there was a 6 in the ones place, that's this one. We're jumping up to the hundreds place, right? There's a 6 in the ones versus a 6 in the hundreds place. So all you have to do is say, how many times did I jump up? Because if you jump up one time, it's 10, but if you jump up another time, you just need to add another 0. So jump up 1 would give you 10. Jump up 2 would have 2 zeros. 2 zeros for 2 jumps. So this 6 is worth 100 times more than that 6. And that's how you get your answer. Just keep track of how many times you've jumped up. So a 10, one jump would be a 10 with 1 0, because 10 has 1 0. And then 2 jumps would be 2 zeros. So the 6 in the number 365 is worth 100 times more than the 6 in 7,546 because, talk about that first number always, because the 6 in 3,645 is in the hundreds place, and the hundreds place is worth, well, 100 times. 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times more than the ones place where that other 6 was. And that's how you compare digits based on their place value. Okay, wherever they're placed, As you go up, it's worth 10 times more.